Did McAllister tell you what he was doing on the Mission Road Trail in minus 40-degree weather? The cabbie looked surprised by what Yakabuski had asked. His eyes narrowed a bit. No, he didn't say anything about that. What did you think he was doing? Well, I didn't give it much thought. He was just another fare, you know. No thought at all? Not at the time, no. Some people like winter camping? What the fuck do I know? What do you think now? The cabbie gave Yakabuski another stare that lasted a second longer than it should have. A man lacking the wit to conceal what he was doing. Deciding right then just how truthful he needed to be. Well, knowing what I do today, sure, I guess I've got an idea. What's come to you, Calvin? The kid might have been out there looking for those missing diamonds. There's a thought. Did you tell anyone after dropping him off that Jason McAllister might have been doing a thing like that? The cabbie started to speak, but before he could, Yakabuski held up his hand to silence him. He left his hand there for several seconds before saying, I'll canvass the taverns. I have you pegged for O'Keefe's, so that's where I'll start. You would have been there last Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday, though I figure you couldn't wait to tell someone about it, so Tuesday. The cabbie was starting to look sick. His head was resting in his hands, and he was making small sounds that might have been moaning, might have been prayer. Yakabuski wasn't sure. If there hadn't been more than $1 billion in lost diamonds hidden somewhere in Springfield, Calvin Jane could have stayed under the police radar the rest of his life. Never quite honest, never crooked enough to notice. Those diamonds were almost entrapment for people like Jane, though Yakabuski supposed you could say that about any kind of greed, and maybe that wasn't saying much. Get your coat, he said, having come to his decision. Let's finish this conversation downtown. You're arresting me? On what charge? Not the right one, I'm willing to bet, but I'll think of something. Do you have a coat, Calvin, or are you going outside in that shirt? Chapter 2. 6 weeks earlier, the largest armed robbery in history had taken place in Springfield. $1.2 billion in uncut diamonds stolen from a DeKirk Mines cargo plane sitting on the tarmac of the Springfield International Airport. It happened a week before Christmas, and it still seemed like fantasy to a lot of people, or a thing that was both real and unreal, if that made any sense. People saw that diamond robbery the way you see some distant date. Real enough, but so far away it seemed hard to imagine, almost implausible. It stayed that way well into the new year, a shared sense of disbelief in Springfield, an odd calm in the city, as though people were waiting to see if the jewelry heist had been a seasonal fable, some shining star in the east that was no longer there. It was hard to tell exactly when that changed, when the penny dropped and people realized, with surprise, that the story was true. $1.2 billion worth of uncut, untraceable diamonds had been stolen in Springfield, and the police had not a clue what happened to them after that. Soon as Christmas is finished, people are going to start thinking about those diamonds, and not in a good way. George Yakabuski had warned his son. I know that. Whole town could go mad trapper crazy this winter if you don't find them. We're looking, Dad. Yakabuski, senior detective with the Springfield Regional Police Service, had come to the conclusion diamonds made a robbery investigation worse in every possible way. If a dozen Van Gogh paintings had been stolen, Yakabuski couldn't imagine someone like Jason McAllister coming to Springfield to try and find them, because what were you ever going to do with a dozen Van Goghs? Set up a private viewing room in the back of your garage? Give them away to close friends and family? Same deal with money. Most people would figure paper currency was marked, and they'd get caught if they'd tried to spend it. So what was the point in trying to find it? And they'd be right. Not to mention the square footage of $1.2 billion in paper currency would be a problem logistically. Even Saddam Hussein couldn't make off with that much cash when his son rolled up with a tank brigade to make a last-minute withdrawal from the Central Bank of Iraq the day before the Second Persian Gulf War started. But $1 billion in diamonds, that was different. You could throw that in the trunk of a Cadillac and be on your way. Store them in your garden shed. Ship them to friends in some FedEx boxes. Those diamonds weren't cut, and Yakabuski...